nowhere. You ain't going nowhere. Same earth, just another dimension or another reality. So when they're talking about sliding and all, the thing is that you can't artificially make no wormhole. The wormhole is in your head, which is the doorway to black dot and that whole thing. So that's the reason why you need to watch the thing sliders. Okay, Olympus. The Olympics comes from the Greek story of Mount Olympus. That's Mount Hotep in Egypt, Mount Olives in Christianity, Mount Zion in Judaism. You see what I'm saying? Mount Olympus in Greece. So the Olympics is also talking about an apex of a coming of another condition. Now it's interesting. Now look at the deal. You first came here in what, 1492? We'll go back far as Columbus sailed the earth blue. Even though you was here, you see, we're not talking about the black people that was already over here. We know that this land was full of thousands and millions of black people before the white man even got here. But we're talking about the slave incident, the 1492 when Columbus sailed the earth's ocean blue. When, you know, after what? After they kicked, that whole Columbus thing happened when? When they kicked the doggone Moors out of Spain. Supposedly, right? Now look. Then, you know, they took the technical advanced Moors and took them over here and they built, you know, all this advanced stuff. Now, 1492, he sailed the ocean blue. And it started the slave trade with the Portuguese and that whole thing. Even though we know that the slave trade with the Arab slave trade, we know history. But we're talking about points. Now look at this. It came from Spain to the Americas. And we talking about the Americas, we talking about the Caribbean on up to North America. This new world, right? Okay, 1492. What happened in 1992 in Barcelona, Spain? The Olympics, which is the what 300, 400 year? What anniversary was that? Of Columbus. Was it 300? 500 year anniversary. Where did they have the actual Olympics? In Barcelona, Spain. Don't necessarily, it just means Spain. Right? Now they're having it where? Where did Columbus sail to? He sailed to the New World. So we know they can't have it in the Caribbean and all that kind of thing. They ain't big enough. So why is it, the reason why Greece didn't get it, they got it, is because it's also, it came from Spain in 92 now. And in 96 it's coming where? Atlanta, which would be the root of the doggone Middle Passage. See the key? But it's spiritual also too. Although, hell, it might not even get here, but if it does, it's negative as far as the white boy are concerned. You see what I'm saying? Because they're using all the money. You see, they won't loan Negroes no money, but all of a sudden they got all this money. And it ain't just outside interest. All these banks is taking part in this shit too. Same banks wouldn't loan niggas money. You see. You can get a church now. You can buy a church. You want a church, you can get a church tomorrow. If it's Christianity, you can get a church tomorrow. You see what I'm saying? You want to open up a candy stand, and you don't need enough for 10,000 to do it? If you need 5,000, 2,000, you ain't getting no money. You see, but you can open up a church. You see them tomorrow. And that ain't because of economics. Even though we know the churches take up $5 million each Sunday in Atlanta, it's not just for economics. It's because they know that the church is what? Religion is the opium of the masses. Keep you drunk. So you can open up a church tomorrow. You can't get a loan for a house, you can get a loan for a damn automobile. See what I'm saying? A lot of black people got messed up behind these cars and stuff. See what I'm saying? You know, get messed up, them cars. You can get an automobile. Now, the key is, this Olympics thing is, boom, it's going to be in here, and it's the same root of the slave trade. Also, the Barcelona, Spain thing was, we talked to a Puerto Rican guy last week, and that guy told us, he said he had some family in Spain. He said they demolished Spain when they was there in 92. He said they just now building that thing back. And that was Spain. Can you imagine the crime capital, so-called the crime capital, not just Atlanta, because we know ain't no crime, we talking about just America. These crazy people over here anyway. Can you imagine what's going to happen to Atlanta? You remember now, L.A. ain't never recuperated from it and stuff. L.A. never recuperated from it, and after that, L.A. really started getting to the gang activity. A lot of bad stuff started happening. So if they doggone messed up Barcelona, Spain, in that small time compared to Atlanta, can you imagine what's getting ready to happen here? You see? But all of that particular part is also, not only that, that's also, so even though they plan something, the Spirit also make them plan something also too. So it's the becoming of a new condition. What's that, Okay, okay. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, yeah, well, hold on one minute. I'm going to have to get with that in a few minutes during the break. I want to see some of that. So now also, too, but it's also dealing with Mount Olympus, which is also dealing with you coming into an earthly new condition also, too. All of this stuff lines up. Not just coincidence. Everything is everything. Okay, let's deal with some more hard copy. You remember the brother Max Robinson? You remember him? Yeah. Was it Max Robinson? Yeah, Max Robinson. Remember him? Now, he was the baddest black anchor man that was on ABC. Now, he got debunked from ABC because Frank Reynolds died in 1992. Old racist cracker Frank Reynolds. And because this cat was a doggone racist, Max Robinson knew it, and he said he wasn't going to be no hypocrite, so he didn't go to the funeral. So no more than a week later, they had got his ass out of there. You see, out of ABC. Then the next thing you know, the brother comes down with AIDS. You see, as a result, they say, well, nigga, we gave you some things, now we're going to show you how bad we are. So then he come down from AIDS. They killed Max Robinson because he was not one of these kind of people that could buck dance. You see what I'm saying? And they was figuring, hell, man, we gave you one of the most prestigious spots as an anchor. What's that? Off Ash? Oh, yeah, they got that nigga out of there. Took him right on out of here. Right, yeah, they took him on out. They took him right on out of there, too. You see what I'm saying? They said, okay, we're gonna show you, because they gave, see, that anchor man is like God, especially that national news. So to sit in that seat, you know, they really handing the rings over you. They trusting you with something. That's like you one of the head trustee members, and now you ain't gonna be down with us. So as a result, his punishment, they gave him AIDS. So they did it again last year with Connie Chung, thinking she was a cracker. Now she married to the cracker now. She thinking she the cracker. So when Newt Gingrich's mama came up there and said that Hillary Clinton mama was a bitch off the records, she thinking she a cracker now. She don't know she a slant-eyed chink. They call her yellow nigger. You know what I'm saying? They don't give a damn about them either now. So she gonna go and thinking she doesn't think she done made it in white society. And she said something about Newt Gingrich's mama. And they said, well, we show your ass some shit. About what? About 2 weeks later, her ass was gone. Right, sure, right. But I remember but no more than about 2 weeks after that, boom, her behind was off the stage. And they said, we're going to show you. You don't doggone mess with our people. Yeah, but mainly what got her in trouble, I'm going to tell you something about the trilateral thing. I'm going to go into this New World Order thing, too. See, there's a catch behind that, too. The New World Order thing is true. But the key about the New World Order thing, the New World Order been going on. But the element, what they're trying to get everybody now is that you still waiting on the New World Order, and that way they can kill you on the crab pot thing. They're balling your ass. The New World Order been here, so what it is the reason why, that's why even what's the name can talk about the New World Order, what's this cracker that's running for president, no, not Doe, Buchanan. He can talk about it like that and all because the New World Order been here. That's the key. And see, most of the people that's getting into the New World Order, they still waiting on something. And yet they're killing thousands of black people right now. And that's the key to it. They're only giving you a history of what they've been doing for the last, 300 years. So that's what the key is and all. But one reason why they showed her behind, you just don't, this is a fraternity here, you just don't talk about nobody's family. It's like that mafia thing. So when she talked about that man mama, they got her behind right on out of there. See, you just a nigger too. Sure. She just a nigger too. So, you know, and like I say, you know it's the last days when the white boy can win the damn slam dunk contest. Now I say, you know, I say everything assigned to me. I say everything assigned to me. See, spiritual, I say, now look, they say watch for the signs. They say, well, you know it's over by the signs. You thinking of some man coming out the damn sky, you know, ooh, it's right in front of you. All them black people, that cracker win the slam dunk contest. I say, man, this is the last days now. You see, you know. Yep, sure enough. And he won it on the same, he won it the day before that crossing the last time I spoke. And I said, that's something else. Check. All right. Let's see what we got here. I want to show you something here. Because this is interesting. This is in a book called Fire and Ice. Stephen E. Powers, Ph.D. Historical Structure of the Rites of Germany's Most Influential and Modern Magical Order of the Brotherhood of Saturn. Brotherhood of Saturn and all, and also that was that whole thing, but Hitler was hooked up into that. But I want to read something to you here, and this is the point what we're saying we have to get to this particular level. When we talk, so we talk about solitude. Solitude is not locking yourself up in a house. Solitude is a mental condition that you have to try to tune yourself in, whereas you can be in the crowd and be a million years away from the crowd. And so it says, okay, the cultivation of solitude is a primary task of the Saturnian brother, and Saturn, which means the black brother, because Saturn is called the black planet. So it says, as the initiate has chosen the pathway to higher knowledge through the Saturn phase, it has naturally to isolate himself from the masses of humanity. The isolation also is not only are you going to be everywhere the masses are you going to be, but not only that, you don't have to shut yourself in the house like a hermit, but we're talking about a doggone attitude. So as we're not telling you to be better than your people you grew up with, you don't want to deal with them now because you're consciousness. Isolation and solitude is also a certain spiritual awareness that you're going to deal with and all. And so it says, so you isolate yourself from the masses of humanity. By doing so, it liberates oneself from a vast number of influences of the masses. The influences that are detrimental to the initiatory process, which means these influences. So we're talking about isolating yourself mentally and some of that physically too. You see what I'm saying? The initiate's need for spiritual development as humanity becomes less and less his progress. Excuse me, let me read this again. Like I said, I got to slow myself down when I'm reading. I have to slow myself down because I'll be going faster than the thing. Because sometimes, like I say, I'll add in words that ain't even there and shit, you know, just to make it sound good. Okay. It says the initiate's need for spirituality undifferentiated from humanity becomes less and less as the process accelerates. Which it means is some of you actually need to be in the in crowd. Because that's that lower nature. You radiating off that. And once you radiating off that lower nature, you got to feed it by doggone appealing to somebody or making yourself look like something. Basically, you care how you look in front of people. You understand what I'm saying? So that the way a person feels about you is more important than you raising yourself up. And that's the problem we got, you see. So it says, now, it says, so despite his solitude, and more because of the point of it, he is happy and happy and a self-contained individual because he stands more and more outside the standards of common human measurements, evaluations. You see what I'm saying? The initiate is not only able to overcome a perfect serenity of all difficulties that might arise in his life, but also put behind him all doctrines of dogma, of outmoded religions, and of the masses, Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, etc. Now, we're not talking about you can't read the scriptures. It's the difference between reading the scriptures of the Quran and these type things and interpreting it spiritually. I'm going too fast. I need to drink some water. Because it ain't like I can't talk. And then to go to a particular organized type of form of fundamentalistic religion. You see, and that's what we got to get out of, the organization of the way you take this particular stuff. Basically, like I say, anybody that's actually teaching you and not giving you the knowledge, so you say, well, I tell you yourself, I'm going to give you the book, so you go read it yourself. Anybody that's teaching you some things and not giving you the original way he got it from, and basically you looking to that person, you are only limited based on where that person is going to take your ass. You see what I'm saying? So it also says here that if the solitude is a joyous one, it says because this particular brother, he stands outside of the society, and it says because he is not necessarily ruled by fashion, ruled by what you call the in crowd, or ruled by what you call the actual faddish phrase, by us being a faddish type person. So now it's key now that you have to become solitude in what you do, not necessarily saying I'm not going to be out You got to do what you got to do. But this is the key right now, because now you're dealing with not only two different Americas, black and white, but now you're dealing with dead and alive. And the dead is vampires that will suck your energy. You see what I'm saying? It's hard to be around dead people now. Man, it just really sucks your energy. You see, all for one reason, because you know something, you want bad to tell that person something, but you know that the person just don't want to hear it, and because you know they don't want to hear it, you say, well, what the hell? So it's almost sucking your actual energy. So solitude is also a deadly one. Also, too, the spirit world now is actually killing all false messiahs, mainly false white messiahs. Because first of all, there's no such thing as a black false messiah, although he's false in telling you that he's the messiah and you need to follow him and you ain't the messiah yourself. But we talk about like David Koresh. The word Koresh is also a Hebrew term that means messiah, because it's also dealing with Christ. So David, which is the star in Christ, David Koresh. That's why in the 90s, even though we know that they took the brother out, well, the cracker out, but the point is, the energy that he was putting on himself, his biological makeup is not suitable for that energy, so therefore he had to die. As well as the Lubaba witch, because the Lubaba witch, the particular one that was the one that died, this Lubaba witch guy that was in the, that's them Jews and all that black stuff. They had one that was supposed to be the Christ, and he died in 94, and David Koresh died in 93. The reason why is because he put a certain energy on him that automatically took him on out of here. You see. Took him on, they took him on out of here. And there's a book called, this book here that's dealing with the Dead Sea Scrolls. I think the name of the book is, this book. It's a $30 book. It's called The Scepter and the Star, Messiahs of the Dead Sea Scrolls, which is a very good book. And all. The guy deals with this in his introduction on how these crackers got took out. See, and he literally was saying they was putting some energy to them that they could not take, in so many words. In so many words. Like I said before, the show Gulliver's Travel that we thought was some fairy tale type thing was in actuality a person that traveled into the underworld, and it was an Egyptian story that was filtered into a European story. And so the Gulliver's Travel was actually a travel into other dimensions and into the other world, and that's why when it came on, it was dropping a whole lot of stuff where they referred to white people as idiots and yahoos, they call them. And even the horse had more intelligence than them. You see what I'm saying? So that's another one. I did happen to record it on video because I knew ahead of time it was going to be dropping. It was a real good story. And also it's an Egyptian papyrus in which they got it from, where a person went to the underworld, went to the other side, and he said that although he was looking at his own higher self, he said these people was 100 foot tall and their houses was as tall as the heaven, and they laughed at me with my enormous size. They laughed at me. And in actuality, he was looking at his own essence. He was looking at his own self in the mirror and couldn't recognize it. Just in another dimension, you are the God, and we're trying to merge these two together now. You see what I'm saying? So Gulliver's Travel was actually dealing with that, but that was the white boy that went there, and they was really looking at him as a joke. And remember now, when he got back, they called the white people yahoos, and he said it was years before he even let a yahoo touch him. You see what I'm saying? Let a yahoo touch him. Real key in that particular information that was actually dealing with that Gulliver's Travel. But I do have it on video so we can make it available for the people who need it also too. All right, listen to this, because we're dealing with some actual things on what's actually going on in the cosmos. The state of dynamic tension, which is the cosmic, finds itself according to the laws of cosmic ice. Now, is eventually going to collapse. Now, this is what it means. The fact of this collapse is already on the way. Astronomically, this process is very planetary bodies is being absorbed into the sun. The spiritual level of this atonement to the principles of which these planets are manifestations are being redeemed. So they're saying when your planet goes into the sun, in actuality, it's like you going back into the juice flow with automatically, because the sun inside of you will correspond with that, and you will become gods also too. Now listen what it says here. 4 planets have already been redeemed. Vulcan, Hermes have already been consumed by the sun. Does that mean they used to have a planet called Vulcan and Hermes? You see what I'm saying? While Mercury and Venus have been drawn within the sphere of the influence, at some point Saturn and Jupiter will merge, combining a mildness of Jupiter and the severity of Saturn. This will give rise to a golden new age. Eventually, all planets of the solar system will be thus redeemed, bringing an end of this cycle of existence. Now, that particular part happened, you know, in 1994 when the Dogon did the actual Siggy ceremony, and they're talking about these planets being redeemed, which is also talking about the other dimension is that sun that you see out there, we're going within it, because that particular sun that they're talking about is actually Sirius, which you're talking about is actually dark. So this actually, these Kabbalahs, this Kabbalah, these particular planets where the earth and all of that goes right back into this particular dark, the original sphere in which it fell out of, and then it radiates with the upper triad, which is the crown Keter, which is the light or the actual heaven sphere. I'll go deep into that in a minute when I want to break this down. But I want to show you something here. Look at this. This is some information that came from Chicago, that came from Detroit, that is actually verifying some information on both the cloning, AIDS, and everything else. And I want to read this to you. It's talking about here, it's talking about something called the Black Project. Okay, the Black Project. Official Naval Intelligence manages the Black Project. It says involves other world energies as well as mainly the World Health Organization, WHO. WHO has the technology to heal most disease. One of many diseases now curable. One of many diseases now curable is debate. Now what it means here is it's talking about it's got several diseases that can be cured, and it says this. Wonderful might one think. However, what about AIDS virus? Was generally engineered to annihilate black people. Now this is so I'm saying, you know, we always say that. Now I'm telling you, the reason why we're saying it, because we're supposed to know this by now, but now we actually got the documents from the white people. See what I'm saying? From the white people. AIDS virus was generally engineered to annihilate black people and homosexuals. The homosexual was just a test pattern, remember? They put it in there first just to make you think it's a faggot disease, and then everybody got it. So now most people still thinking it came from homosexuals. And yes, dear readers, this is true. Unfortunately, now AIDS is out of hand, because of the virus is mutating beyond their expectation. Who actually, now look at this, WHO, which is the World Health Organization, actually tried to create AIDS virus in 1932. The government experiment was carried out in Alaska by infecting black males with syphilis. So the first base, before they even got to the actual Tuskegee thing, they did it in Africa also too, probably with that whole pipeline deal. You see, crackers dropping on the actual stuff right in the actual, we have the actual documents now. Documents now. Also, it says other areas, the Black Project of alien genetic engineering, cloning, and it says cryogenic technology, because, you know, crying, it can freeze your behind and wake you back up. And that was that whole thing with the demolition man. Are beginning to, are being carried out at the biologic laboratories in Duluth, New Mexico, area centers of the subterranean city near Shasta, California also, Mount Shasta, California also too. They're dealing with this particular part too. It says there are the house that house almost 2 million reptilian type people. So they're literally just talking about here, they're talking about actually clones, what they're dealing with here. But we have this actual information that we can get out here too. I guess we can just print it up and give it to the people. But it's dealing with a whole lot of things with aliens and all that. I just thought that I wanted to run that by you. What's that?
What are they trying to do with Magic Johnson thing?
Well, Magic Johnson, first of all, Magic Johnson had never had no AIDS. You know what I'm saying? But we do believe that they got to the brother and put him on one of the machines and made a duplicate. You see what I'm saying? We do know that much about him, and made a duplicate, and then he came back out and all, and now all of a sudden he playing good basketball and all. Hell, all the boys, hell, not only that, all the boys that was with him, you know, like Larry Bird and all, they done retired and stuff. See, I'm saying He's probably the same age he was when he stopped and shit, because he's biologically made up that way. You see what I'm saying? So he's biologically made up that way. Now it's interesting because in the book Extraterrestrial Friends and Foe on page 159, and this was a very interesting point that I wanted to make here. It's talking about the Enochian languages. Now the Enochian languages, if you get into these books and try to study the Enochian languages, it's hard because it don't have vowels. Just as the Egyptian stuff didn't have vowels also. They got my spoon here too? Yeah, good. Didn't have vowels also. Now that's the reason. We was thinking that the Egyptian or the Camite language was inferior because it didn't have vowels, but the Greeks did have vowels. Let me explain what's going on here. When you see most ancient languages, like cuneiform, which is Sumerian, Camite, and we got this new Enochian text here that comes all the way from Atlantis. What happens is they don't have vowels, but the Greek stuff has vowels. Although the Greek language was invented by black people, what had happened was this: during the time of Hemmitt, for the most of Hemmitt up until the later time of Hemmitt, they did not speak. As well as Atlantis and other ancient cultures, they used telepathy, so they didn't speak. As the vibratory rate slowed down, they had to use more speech, and this voice developed. So the first languages, they spoke without vowels, because vowels is basically most of the language. You know, you have the, vowels is most of the actual language. You see, so they didn't speak with vowels because they didn't speak it first. So the first languages, you see, they didn't have vowels in them. That's real key. So by the time the blacks in Greece that put together the other languages, that the language came along, what happened was that they had vowels in it because we had slowed down to a particular level that we needed to use speech basically for our ways of communication. So when you see these things, they don't have vowels, it doesn't mean that they're inferior to Greece, because that's what the doggone cracker gonna have you. It means it's superior because they didn't have to speak as much. They didn't need the voice as much. So it's interesting here because it says the Enochian Langua, it says Francia, it says a space race much, and it says this particular Enochian is a Langua, a Francia, which is a space race, and much as Swahili was a Langua, Swahili to many African languages. And it's basically saying here that the actual Enochian language, this angelic language and stuff of this space race, the only thing that they can find that even fits closely to it is Swahili and other English languages. So this is other stuff that's actually dealing with the actual, actually showing you that they're verifying on Extraterrestrial Friends and Foe in this particular book. They deal with it on page 159 that they're actually dealing with the actual languages, and they're basically saying in actuality that we are advanced. That this remote language, that this so-called Dr. John Dees, when you read this stuff on Enochian, you're going to think that John Dees channeled this stuff in the time of Queen Elizabeth. What the deal was is, Queen Victoria, I think, excuse me. What the deal was is John Dees had gone into the British Museum and had found some stuff that the Moors left behind. So there's texts like the Solomon, the Greater Key of Solomon, the Enochian text, and all the Necronomiconic texts that the Moors left behind. Thousands of these ancient texts from around the world, from Atlantis and stuff. They left this stuff behind in the University of Salamanca, and later on it became property of the actual British Museum. So what happened is Dr. John Dees, who was supposed to be the inventor of this Enochian language, or the first person to communicate with these angels, in actuality all he did was translated some Moorish stuff. Because ever since the white people have been dealing with this particular information, this particular Enochian stuff has been killing them, burning them up, and all kind of stuff been happening to them. And that's just some more of our energy that they are not in the biological makeup to handle, you see. But that's a lot of the stuff that, like I said, a lot of the stuff that the scholars thought they was dealing with, they haven't even begun to even deal with some stuff, because there's things that the Moors brought up into doggone England that the white boy still got hid in his museums. And he's only letting them see just a little bit of the particular stuff. Now, I want to show you this. Look at this. This is going to be in this book called The Secret Wisdom of the Kabbalah, J.F.C. Fuller. J.F.C. Fuller used to be a good friend of Aleister Crowley, and he used to do a lot of his artwork for him, and he defected and went over to Adolf Hitler, because Adolf Hitler was claiming to be Heru, the Messiah, after he read the Book of the Law, which is also in the book Adolf Hitler, Black Magician by Schuster, Gerald Schuster. Anyway, this guy, A.F.C. Fuller, after writing all this profound work on the Kabbalah, he defected because he thought, literally, he admired Adolf Hitler, because he said, oh, this man has got to be the Christ figure. You see what I'm saying? Because, you know, the way he rose up and all this kind of crazy stuff. Now, look at this. But in this particular book, it's a very good book if you can find this book to get. It's still in print. It's called The Secret Wisdom of the Kabbalah. I want to show you something on page that was real profound on page 152 in this particular book. Look at this. Let's see, that 152. Hold on 1 minute. 152. Let's see if I can find this. Hold on 1 minute. 182, excuse me, 182. Now listen to this. It says, in short, the chosen people, which is us, are the light of the world. So they say Jesus is the light of the world. No, you the light of the world. And it says, a light which at a present is mixed with darkness, which means that you mixed in a multitude because you are in exile. So that means light and darkness. This here they're talking about the people with light and some of the people that don't have light, because even some of the crackers walking around that's got that black dot and don't even know it also too. So they say this thing is all mixed all up. And it says, at present it is mixed with darkness. The Gentiles are the children of Eshu. So you need to find out this, go and study this Eshu and all this kind of thing. This darkness will vanish little by little. First Israel will look forth as the dawn, and next she will become fair as the moon, then as clear as the sun. That is talking about raising your vibratory rates to the point where you shine again. And you're going to find out about this particular part in the book of Revelation. They're going to talk about people with unclean spirits. How you going to be able to tell in the end days on who ain't right and all, because their auras ain't going to have enough energy to shine the way yours is, because they don't have the shit on the inside. And that's going to monitor this type thing. Now, lastly, terrible as an army with banners, which means also when you shine like a doggone sun, then you're going to become terrible because you're going to have your strength back. Such as the reformation of Yahweh. When it is accomplished, not a Gentile, or excuse me, white that they're talking about here, will be left to pollute the earth. For Israel, Isis, Ra, and El, which means sun, or another ancient name for Heru, the Trinity, El, Son, and also Elohim. You see, Son and also heirs. Also, Israel will become the messianic Shin, which will unite the tongue of God and the utterance, and his name will enter the universe and vanish into absolute light. And it says, such is the inner meaning of illumination. So they're talking about here that in actuality, they're talking about when you raise yourself back, they said these particular Gentiles will be white, won't be one left to pollute the actual earth, which I thought was real. Now I want to show you another one up in here. I'm going to show you another one up in here. Well, I also read the one about you where they said about God permits the pain and suffering because he favors you more, and the one who is weak of soul, he is the most hated of God. That's also in this particular part here. But what's getting ready to happen is when we go to a certain level, you're going to be able to tell who ain't real and who's not real, because there's going to be even some white people with the doggone black dots. So in order to actually pick everything out, what ain't shining? Because there's different races down here. And there's clones too with black people, so hell, you don't even know what's shining there. So based on that, their auras is going to shine. They also talk about that in the book of Revelation. They say you will know the righteous man, which is talking about the righteous because he's right or ripe. You see, ripe as far as fruit, because that is his origin. He's back after the cocoon stage. He's ripe. So the righteous man, they will tell you, the particular righteous man, you will know him because he will shine like bright lights. But the impure spirits will be a dull type of aura. So you'll be able to actually you'll be able to deal with the actual aura type things. Now, it's interesting. Now, there's a book that you want to get. I don't know the name of the person, but there's a book out now. There's one of these books that's talking about melanin and melatonin, and it's called Where Science and Magic Meet. It's by Element Books, and it deals with the whole pineal gland and melatonin, as well as the magic and all of that type of thing. But not only that, he's breaking it down so whereas even the scientists can't say that this thing does not meet. And so it's that book called Where Science and Magic Meet. That is a book that's dealing with the actual melanin type thing. Also, there was a book called The Occult Sciences of Ancient Atlantis. You ever heard? It's by Louis Spence. If you ever get your hand on it, it's called The Occult Science of Ancient Atlantis. And it's talking about how the Egyptians used to be able to make melanin outside of the body like a black powder. That's alchemy. They used to be the master alchemists, and even though there's a lot of books on alchemy, a lot of white people have not been able to perform this alchemy, even though they do synthetic melatonin, but they have not been able to perform this alchemy as far as putting this alchemy inside of their body where they get this actual spirit. You see, what happened was in Atlantis is not only the magicians in Atlantis learned how to make physical bodies and make lower entities in the bodies by taking the entities off of the lower astral plane. One of the keys is we got the junior high school in this because those masters was teaching the actual students, be Yakub or whoever, Washforth or Umwale Tum, one of the names, was trying to teach them, and they first told them how to make a physical man. Then they told, they told them how to make a physical man basically based on how you do cloning, DNA cloning, gene splicing. And this man could be a person that could act like an actual man if you teach him, if he evolved to that point. But the actual gods knew how to put the spirit from the cosmos and literally bring down a spirit into that man that would be a complete human being like black. So they could duplicate a complete black person. And because these ones that did this was in junior high school and they didn't learn how to get that complete energy to do that particular energy. And the science of alchemy is dealing with that. And there's a white boy by the name of Fucanelli. And in 1970s, late 70s, he had broke some keys into alchemy. I don't think he learned how to literally create a complete human, but he learned how to, he broke a couple of mysteries into melanin and also mysteries of Sirius. And the government, CIA, went after him, and he ended up missing. Not because they caught him, he ended up missing because he went into hiding, and they hadn't been able to see the brother. They haven't seen the brother since 1980, this particular brother, since 1980. There's a book called The Fucanelli Phenomenon by, his name is, you can find this book. It comes from Neville Spellman. Fucanelli Phenomenon. His name is Kenneth Rayner Johnson, R-A-Y-N-E-R Johnson. The Fucanelli Phenomenon, and he wrote this book in 1980, and it's, and it comes from England. But it was one thing real profound up in here, based on the information that he was dealing with here. I think he was using Fucanelli's diaries and all, and I'm going to show you something on page 263 in this particular book that's dealing with melanin. And all. Also, some things that you need to eat also to enhance your melanin. One thing is the colon cleanser, because I told you your melanin is also produced by your gastrointestinal tract. You see what I'm saying? You see, it's dealing with this. Let me see, that's 263. Listen to this. The pineal gland produces a sand-like substance known as melatonin, a discovery made in 1959 by Aaron Lamar at Yale University. So Yale was the first white people to actually get this particular information. A year later, it was determined that melatonin was manufactured from serotonin, an unusual substance found in many places, and also in the blood and the hypothalamus region of the brain. Also in dates, bananas, plums, and figs. As figs found in tropical climates. This is where you get the word ficus, F-I-C-U-S, religious. Serotonin was first extracted from a rye grain, which was infected with a parasitic fungus called ergot. which is synthetically produced today in hallucinogenic drug LSD. So you understand what, you get a lot of stuff with Timothy Leary was dealing with LSD. You can understand what these crackers was actually trying to do with the trip thing in the 1960s with the psychedelic culture. In some way, yet not fully understand, LSD can produce a sensation that intensifies consciousness of the cosmic awareness and oneness, and might seemingly blocking out the rational functions of the mind. Now that's key, because that's the problem what we have here with a lot of scholars and a lot of educators, is when you go in these systems, you become rationally impaired. Whereas your brain, if you're dealing with logic, rationale, and all of these particular things, you cannot let the spiritual side actually flow. You see what I'm saying? So they said that's what this particular LSD was actually doing. It is suggested by some scientists that LSD somehow alters the concentration of serotonin in the brain cells and in the pineal gland. It is said also to be postulated that Buddha, that sat and meditated, which was none other than the Ficus regulus plant, which is probably the fig tree, which provided his diet and means of illumination. And if you see the movie Little Buddha, you'll see him meditating under a tree, Keanu Reeves, who played Buddha. So now in the movie, you'll see him meditating, and there's a whole lot of things that's actually going on, but the tree is actually talking about this particular tree that he meditated under. But also that tree is on the inside of us, because it's the tree of life, which is the actual, basically the actual staff and caduceus, which in actuality is a form of the tree of life, which in actuality is the chakra system. Now in this book, J.F.C. Fuller, not only do you have this kind of type of tree of life, but they've also showed, which this one is found on the temples in Egypt, but these are actually tree of life also, which also lead to the actual black dot. And you've seen these as actual tree of life also too. So, so that particular tree is also inside of you, is actually what they're talking about here. It's also inside of you. Okay. Now, let's deal with some other things right now. Let's see what we got here. It's funny because when they were dealing with this particular information on melanin, we've always heard this thing, like I said before, that males supposed to have sexual, at 19, a male's supposed to sexually peak, and after that it's all downhill. In actuality, that was European males sexually peak at 19, because their pineal gland hardens and all, because your pineal gland and your whole melatonin thing is also produces also semen and sperm. So what happens is that when it comes to these white people are the ones that actually sexually peak, and it's all downhill for the white boys after 19. Then you can understand why these white women want black men at a certain time also too. You see what I'm saying? Right. And might I add, every time I turn on a damn TV show when it comes to these doggone talk shows, all I see is black men up there with white women. All this shit is engineered. But anyway, they talked about this particular part about it's all down here, but that was not black men. So we taking the actual science and thinking that we are sexually peaking also for the same thing, and that doesn't have anything to do with us also. It has nothing at all to do with us also too. And that's actually talking about white men. Now, this is the point what I came for, because I want to get into this particular part here. This is the point on what I came for. Now, I always talked about this book since my second lecture, The Secret Books of the Egyptian Gnostics. Because this is very important, because I've run up on this within the last 2 years, and I didn't understand what was going on because my mind was focused someplace else and all. And I didn't understand what was going on, but I had understood this material because I said it in my second lecture, type 1, where I produced this actual material, but I had to go back through it because when I found out that we was getting our behinds kicked from an entity in space, and I couldn't understand, first of all, I knew there wasn't no white people out there, and I couldn't understand why is it that this is actually happening if these are all black people. And I said, well, it can't necessarily just be by jealousy. Well, if it's jealousy, that means that that particular person out there is inferior, and to even be jealous of us on the earth. Now, let me explain this stuff to you, because this particular element, and the Spirit also I had to go back, and the Spirit also brought me back with the help of also a brother in Indiana that told me to go look at this page. After I told him to go get the book, he found the actual page, and I said, well, damn. And I said, I knew this stuff because I studied this in the set type and stuff, so I'm going to give you 2 or 3 versions of this. But this is the scope of what's going on, because we're going back into creation now. Now, this is going to be in the secret books of the Egyptian Gnostic by Jean Duress. It used to be $14.95 or $15, but it might have gone up by now. It's probably about $17 now. Jean Duress. G-E-A-N-D-O-R-E-S-S. Jean Duress. The secret books of the Egyptian Gnostics. The Gnostic scripts are the scripts in which Christianity comes from. First it came into Egypt. First you had the Egyptian mystery. Then you had all of the actual books being taken to the Library of Alexandria that was in Alexandria, Egypt, by Alexander the Great, after they pillaged and ransacked all the temples. And then after that you had a later day Egyptian people, black people called the Coptics, that had another type of language, and they translated all the actual Egyptian stuff, fragments of the Egyptian stuff, into Coptic language. And from that, the Greeks took that particular stuff, and then the Romans got it from the Greeks, and they made this whole fake religion, which you call Christianity. You see. So, you know, you call Christianity. Another side of that came from out of the mystery system, that Moses took another side of that system from Osiris and fashioned the Kabbalah, and it came by that way of Hebrewism. These are your ancient texts. The ancient Hebrew Kabbalistic texts, the Gnosticism, and going on back to the Book of the Dead in that particular system. But then your later day religion, which is your esoteric religion, where you actually have the Torah 700 years after the first Kabbalah, which is fairy tale damn near, exoteric, and you would have the actual stuff coming from Rome, which they took the Gnostic scripts that was translated into Greek, and they took those Gnostic scripts and fashioned up this whole Jesus Christ story. You understand? But even Jesus was an ancient name for Heru. I'll get into this in a minute. You see what I'm saying? So even the historical figure, they were saying that actually there was never no historical Jesus. Never. So even the historical figure that you're talking about, Yeshua and all, that the stuff was attributed to. You see what I'm saying? A lot of that was a figment of the damn Romans' mind. And it was an ancient mythology of an ever-coming Messiah in the last days. And it's got all threw off of some fool that's supposed that came 2,000 years ago. And I'm going to explain to you what happened, because it was a cosmic thing that also happened too. Now, listen to this. In the beginning, there was infinite abyss, which would be the great mother. I'm going to walk you through this. There had been a light, blissful, incorruptible, and infinite, the father of all and the first of man. Now, it said at first the abyss, which is the primal great mother, and then they had a light. You see what I'm saying? The light was actually the father that came after the mother, because the mother created the light. She's going to jump back up in here in a few minutes when she starts getting down. Now mind you, this is the scripture and the stuff that they carved off, and they give you that little sad little story of Adam and Eve's story in Genesis. You understand what I'm saying? And accelerate the shit, and you don't understand what the hell going on. This is the whole complete story. You don't get none of this in the Bible. These are the Gnostic scripts now. It's funny, they dug these up in 1940s. They dug some of these scripts up, and it was purchased by Carl Jung, which is the psychologist, and that's how you get the psychology. He was using this type of stuff, actually, the Gnostic scripts, to do some of his psychological work. And the teachings of Jesus is all on this. You see what I'm saying? 1,000 years for the historical Jesus. You see what I'm saying? Even the name Jesus was a name by the Gnostic people, a name for Christ by the Gnostic people, as well as a Braxas that was before they even put it on this particular person, Yeshua ben Pandera. Now, in the beginning there was infinite abyss that had, there had been a light, blissful, incorruptible, and infinite, the father of all and the first of man. So there's the mother, and then there's the father who was the light. Thus proceeding from him became the Son of Man. Then underneath both of these there arose the feminine principle of the Holy Spirit and the first woman. We'll deal with that in a minute. Yes, there was an Eve that came after Adam, but that was not the first woman. That was just the first woman in that particular one, because we're talking about variations of spiritual things onto the earth. And you gotta get the script right to understand. And in actuality, they were both created together. The yin and the yang project. You see what I'm saying? And in order to get most of the scripts, you're going to have to go to some other scripts. Where I'm going to read you the Egyptian thing on which this came from. Just going to tie some other things together also, too, because it gets a little graphic. Now, listen to this. The mother principle of the Holy Spirit, the first woman, and the mother of the living. Now, in far depths, confronting these beings were only one element of chaos of the abyss, of the waters of darkness above, and the feminine spirit. So we was talking about who was confronting, who was set over all this, was talking about the feminine spirit. So right there they identified the great mother, who is the author of all life. And it says, was upborn, and it says, from the first to the highest powers was born Christ, who together with them finally instructed the incorruptible eon of the church. Now, what I just gave you here, what they just gave you here, is a step-by-step synopsis of what's going on down to the date. Now, when they get ready to go back to the beginning in a minute and show you what happened here. It was then from the woman was out of the waters of the equilibrium rose a dew of light, the androgyny being called Sophia. Now, she falls down far as the waters. Far as the waters beneath, where the matter clings to her person, and weighs down to the previous. And weighs down to prevent it from rising towards the light. Don't worry, I'm reading right now, but I'm trying to get to the particular point. Within, however, being overwhelming is. Now, this is the point I'm trying to get to right here. I'm going to skip all this, and I'm going to go to the part where they go back into heavens, into the heavens. Now it says, now we back in heaven now. She gives birth to the son, to a son, from whom 6 others are born out of one other, consisting 7 planets and prospective heavens. Oh, okay, now listen to this. Above which Sophia dwells in the A-sphere. Now the 7 heavens is the 7 holy seven reaches of the Pleiades. Now I'm explaining something here. Now this is the point where I'm getting to right here. Into the A-sphere of the octod. Now, the names of the 7 are ascending order. The one that we're going to deal with here is Adalderbroth is his name. Adalderbroth. Then there's Io Sabados and the great Adonias. And they got all these names for these particular 7. You know, get the book and just figure out. But the one we want to deal with here is the father of all of those, Adalderbroth. Adalderbroth, having completed the heavens of the archangel by the desire of the mother, produces a son who is the serpent. Now he exclaims, I am the Father, the God, and there is no one above me. But the mother, hearing him, cries out, do not lie, Adalderbroth. Over and above thee, there are the Father of all, and the first man, and the Son of Man. This voice in the source, which is hidden by Adalderbroth, troubles the powers below. Now, don't worry, I'm going to break it all down in a few minutes. I want to read all this script to you right now. I'm going to break this thing down in a minute and let you know what's going on. Oh, no, but hell, I'm going to go ahead and just read the thing anyway. I just want to I'll read this part anyway. Let me explain what's going on here. What happened here is this. You got the great mother. She creates an Adalderbroth. This particular Adalderbroth is the Gnostic form of Set Typhon in Egypt. Now there's the one called Soot, which is the first light. That's different. This Set Typhon is in the Osirian drama is evil. This Adalderbroth is actually evil. Now, in the Gnostic scripts, they don't understand, well, why is this particular person evil? Now, let me explain this to you right now. Let me go back into this right now and show you what's actually going on right here. Look at this. Look at this. Because I want to give you the right thing. It says, Okay. Boom, boom, boom. It says, I ain't in the mood of reading right now. I'm just going to go ahead and go. You want to? She had a particular son. Now, you can also going to get this in the Dogon script if you ever get a hold of the book, The Pale Fox. Now, she had this son. This son was restless. She was forming this son in the great universe. This son was restless. What happened is the son got restless, and the son, before the son was all the way formed, the son tore away from her and leaped out her side. He tore out her side, he blew a hole in her side, and he leaped out into the universe. Now, when he did this, he was a complete God in the sense that he could create. But at first, he said, I want to be just like you. She said, well, you won't be like me and stuff because you don't know how to create. But by him being in the womb of the universe and in the fabric of the universe, he walked all over the universe. These are mythological things to tell you how this energy. Anyway, in the long run, it learned how to create. It came down and created the physical earth. In the Sirius mystery, they're going to be dealing with Ogu, and they say the earth is Ogu's placenta. It created this physical earth. Now, Ogu is also the evil entity, as well as Adalabroth in the Gnostic scripts are set in the actual Egyptian, and the prototype of Satan in the Christianity and Hebrewism later on down the road. So now, so what happened was that she said, well, you can create, but you'll never be able to create one like me. One like me, which is a duplicate of myself, which means it'll have the supreme essence in which I had intended for you to get. So she shit him, because they're going to talk about that all up in here. She said, well, why don't you do this? She said, why don't you create a man down here that can be subservient to you and can worship you? By him not being all the way created, he always is looking, because when you're not created, in the Osirian drama, they say because he's not created, he's always restless. He's always lacking. So he's always trying to find something of his original creation. That's how the white boy is. That's why when you go to see the movie Tombstone, the one that came out last year, 94, with Val Kilmer and all of them, they were saying, well, what makes a person that evil? And Val Kilmer said he got a big hole in his he got a big hole in his chest, in his soul. He's empty. And they say he's mad, he's angry because he's empty. He said, what is angry? He said he's angry for being born. You see? Now, what happened, so you can, this whole story I'm giving you, you can look at the doggone physical white man to understand what I'm talking about here. So now, what she does is, she said, why don't you create this man who he can worship you? He said, okay, cool. So him and his angels create the first man. So what happens is this. She said, now, but the first man was laid flat, and he didn't have no life. She said, well, listen, why don't you breathe your breath in him and to give him life? He said, okay, cool, I'll do that. But when he breathed his breath in him, the original Adam that she had intended for him, she snuck up behind him and blew that into the man. So she sent him to create, and the man that he created ended up getting the original Adam that was intended for Adalabroth Ogu Aset. But remember, he didn't stay around long enough to get it because he jumped station. See what I'm saying? He jumped station. So what happened is when he found out about this, you understand what I'm saying? When he found out about this, he told the man, he was mad. He was jealous because he wanted what the man had. So he told the man, never eat from the tree of life in the Garden of Eden. As if to say, I'll give you this Garden of Eden and you can be subservient to me, but you can never eat from the tree of life. Because what happened is when she put the original Adam in him, or the dew of light, or the apple, which is called Doth, which is melanin, which is the same essence of her fabric, the black cosmic essence that is in the space which is in you. When she put it in him, he said, well, don't eat the tree of life. Don't eat the apple. You can eat of all the other fruit, but don't eat the apple, which this is the apple Doth, which is called knowledge. Right? Anyway, he created an Eve, supposedly, to to bring forth a people, another type of people out of her that could be subservient to him. But Newt, understanding what happened, or Sophia in the Gnostic, she creates Samuel the snake, and the snake comes and seduce Eve, and Eve seduced Adam, and the snake travels up the tree of life, and eats from the apple. Now I'm going to show you the snake because it's in here also too, to show you what I'm talking about. Here's the Kabbalah, same tree of life, there's the snake. So in actuality, literally what she did is she told him how to raise his kundalini energy up to tap into that black dot. They said what in the Bible? They ate from the tree of life and what? They could see. But Adalabra, which you call God, say what? I am a jealous God and I will have no other gods before me. Which not talking about no, you thinking they're talking about a multiplicity of gods in heaven. They're saying you God, but I won't have no more but myself. You see what I'm saying? So it's not as if the concept of I will have no other gods before me, you worshiping some other gods. That's fundamentalism. They don't even know what the story about. The gods before him is to say that Adalabra is saying,